How's it going, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome back to a brand new test hand video. We're taking a look at Mermails this time around. It's been a little while since I've done a Mermail test hand and wanted to sort of just keep up with, keeping my skills sharp with the deck and showing you guys sort of where the deck is at. It really hasn't changed too much since the previous profile, just sort of reinforcing, what the build is capable of for those that might not have seen. It's not full-on turbo hand loop, and it's more sort of a hybrid, I would say, between just putting up a lot of negates and taking a few cards here and there, mainly off of cards like Trish and Moulinglacia. I'm also opting to play VFD in the extra deck as well, so very much a going first heavy variant, Bujin Link, Needle Fiber, all that stuff. So let's go ahead and get into it. But first, a shout out to our sponsor over at Imperium Duelist. If you guys are interested in picking up some of their amazing tournament-ready non-effect sleeves, clear on the front, no effects, so perfectly tournament legal. You can get them all for 10% off using that discount code WINTERKILLS10 off. And they're also having a buy two get one sale that's continuing on their sleeves. Great deal. You guys should definitely get in on it if you were been thinking about trying their sleeves. Maybe if you've been hesitant. Very, very good sleeves. They also have brand new dice as well. These are just a few here. The Raigeki and Mirror Force dice. If you guys are interested in their new dice, these dice are really, really good. I love the design on them. Obviously red for traps, green for spells. Themed after classic spells and traps. New playmats they just came out with, their new Demon Dance playmat, which I've featured in a previous video. New mat bags as well, like one with the Magispector Kieran here on it, or Construct, or Exciton Knight. But yeah, guys, check them out if you haven't already. You can find a link to the site down in the description below, and like I said, using that discount code at checkout to save 10% off. Of course, you guys are buying anything off of TCG Player, and you want to help it support the channel at no extra cost to you. Using that affiliate link, the first link down in the description, is a great way to do so. And lastly, if you want to get in on some perks and rewards and supporting the channel, going the extra mile to support the channel, consider hitting that blue join button down below for more information on what becoming a member of the channel sort of entails. So let's go ahead and get into our first test hand here and see what we can pull off. I remember one of the most recent additions I had to the extra deck was the addition of the Formula and the Charge Warrior play, because oftentimes you're ending with Needle Fiber and something like Adamancipator, Risen Dragite. So, once you exhaust that play, you can sort of tag out into Formula, draw a card, and then blow up two cards on the opponent's side of the field whenever you feel, to see best fit. So we opened Deep Sea Aria, Infantry, Diva, Call By, and another Deep Sea Aria. I'm currently playing 3 just because the consistency, I want it to be there. I'm balancing between 2 and 3. I just like this card. I mean, in some cases when your hand is a bit weaker and you have a discard outlet, you can obviously go and grab a starter card like Diva, as I've mentioned before in previous profiles, or even if it's mid combo and you don't need it to start your whole play off, you can just use it to get extra extenders like Prince out of the deck, more Dragoons, more Infantry, whatever it may be. So we're going to start this hand off by normal summoning Infantry, and then following that by normal summoning the Deep Sea Diva. And that is going to go ahead and grab a copy of Neptabyss. And Neptabyss, as we always say, is going to send Dragoons to add Dragoons. And of course, a copy of Megalo. Now, we don't need to add the, what's it called right now? The, like the Lappis Dragon yet. And this is a perfect example of where having Deep Sea Aria is going to come in very clutch. So we're going to use it to banish this very, very shiny copy of Dragoons, to go ahead and add another Sea Serpent from our deck to our hand. And we're going to add another copy of Dragoons, because we can definitely do that. Now from here, we can start to think about making something along the lines of Needle Fiber. Technically, if we rewind a little bit, we put the Dragoons back into the deck, leave this card here, leave this here. We can even take it a step further. We could go so far as to link these two off, two monsters with the same level. There's tons of different routes we could take here at this point. So I want to try to, explain as many avenues as that I see currently. But we can make the Bujinki, and we're going to immediately perform a link summon as the card states. I'm going to put the Bahamut Shark actually over here on this side. That way we don't risk clogging up any potential zones that we may gain from any link monsters we put here, because this is currently the only zone we can put them because of Bujinki's sort of link restrictions. But we can use Dragoons here now to go ahead and add a Sea Serpent. And we can really start to think on what Sea Serpent we exactly want to add. We could go for, obviously, Lappis Dragon to set up a Needle Fiber play, but there's really not too much of a reason to go for that just yet. In fact, I'm going to add a copy of Prince, and then I'm going to actually Deep Sea Aria away this Diva to go ahead and add that last copy of Dragoons within our deck. Because right now we're just trying to resolve this Megalo if we can here. to, you know, make more plays happen, essentially, because that's what we need to do. Now, from this point, we can go ahead and special summon our Megalo by discarding the Dragoons and the Prince. Our chain links will be as followed: chain links 1, chain links 2, chain links 3. We'll go ahead and activate, or add, rather, the Mizuchi. Dragoons can go ahead and add, let's see, a copy of Moulinglacia. So we'll add Moulinglacia off that Dragoons, and obviously Prince is going to go ahead and revive one out of the grave. We can go ahead and revive this copy of Dragoons here. Now what we can do here is go ahead and link these two off into a copy of Mermail Abyssalacia. And that'll do a couple of things. That'll give us a place to equip our Mizuchi, and also give us 5 engraved to go ahead and put this Moulinglacia onto the field. And that's pretty much where this particular board is going to stop for the time being. They're down 2 cards. We have an Omni Negate in the form of Totally Awesome, and also a Spell and Trap, or a Spell Negate, really, that can turn off Dark Lure No More and Super Polymerization, which is probably one of the most important things about getting Mizuchi onto the field, is you're oftentimes free of having to worry about a lot of those really powerful cards that other decks kind of have to really try hard to play around. Otherwise, Megalo just kind of like, give me that free stop to those power cards, and we don't have to do too much else to get around it. So a pretty decent test hand there. We could have done a few different things with that particular board. There was a couple different routes. I wanted to go the Bujinki route, though, because I like getting into Bahamut Shark as fast as possible, because I just like, you know, detaching Dragoons, getting a free negate on board, getting a search, etc., etc. I'm a huge fan of those, more like a large air conditioner, but we're going to go ahead and do our second test hand of the video here after we shuffle up. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and open our next hand here. We open with Moulinglacia, Heavy Infantry, Atlantean Dragoons, Neptabyss, and another copy of Heavy Infantry. So we could, you know, possibly normal summon the Infantry and then normal summon the Prince. That may get us a little farther ahead in terms of just bodies on board to work with. So that might be something that I do, although we could just keep the Infantry in hand to work with for later. But either way, let's just go ahead and experiment. We'll go ahead and normal Infantry, then get the additional normal effect on the Neptabyss. And then Neptabyss, of course, going to send Dragoons, add Dragoons off of its own effect. And then, of course, our Sea Serpent Search off of the Dragoons is going to be a copy of Megalo, as it usually is. Now from here, we're going to go ahead and summon Megalo by discarding both Dragoons. Now all 3 Dragoons currently residing in the watery grave. But we're going to go Chainlink 3, Chainlink 2, Chainlink 1. We'll go ahead and search our, you know, stop for Dark Lure No More and Super Poly. And we'll go ahead and get 2 successive searches. One going to be for Lappis Dragon, and the other really could be for whatever. I mean, we could go ahead and add another copy of Infantry if we wanted to have, you know, extra ways to have discards for, whether it be Crocosaur or the Croco Dragon, as it's called, I believe, or Mermail Abyssalacia. Or we could just add a copy of Diva as sort of a follow-up for next turn, since I think we're pretty much set at this point in terms of, you know, extenders that we need to have readily available. So we'll go for the Lappis Dragon, and then here we're going to go ahead and link these two off into, or we could actually, yeah, we'll link these two off into a copy of Needle Fiber here, and good old Halqifibrax, whatever you want to call them. We'll use this effect. We're going to summon out not Deep Sea Diva. We're going to summon out Fishborg Launcher. And then from here, we're going to summon out, since we do have 5 Waters Engraved, a copy of Moulinglacia. So they are down 2 cards now at this point. We have the potential to take another card from them, if we so desire, by synchroning all of these into a copy of Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. So that's potentially another play. Or the other option I'm thinking of here is a bit more conservative, is to synchro these two into a copy of this Adamancipator Risen Dragite. So now once we have all waters in our graveyard, we can freely bring out this Fishborg Launcher and, you know, make a link play here with Neptabyss and Fishborg Launcher and go into Mermail Abyssalacia. Now the nice thing about doing this that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise, I mean, I guess technically we still could have done it if we would have made Trish, but we would have had to have linked off our Moulinglacia. So it's sort of pick your poison at that point. But basically, doing this and not going for that Trish this time around anyways, will allow us to equip this with the Mizuchi, and also give us, you know, use for this Infantry in hand. And since we have a level 8 Synchro, after we exhaust the negate here, we can tag Halqifibrax. This always gets banished, I always forget about that. But we can tag Halqifibrax into Formula Synchron at the right time, draw a card, and then synchro the formula, and the Dragite into a copy of Satellite Warrior, and of course that'll pop a few more cards in of its own right, 2 to be exact, since we have 2 Synchro monsters in our grave upon summon. So overall pretty solid. Of course we'll get a search off of our Alacia too. Once we discard the heavy infantry, we'll pop a card, and of course be able to search something like Teus for next turn, which is really solid. So very happy with that test hand there overall. Again, probably a few different ways to play that out, but just the way I felt like going about it right then and there. So let's go ahead and reset the deck and do another test hand. Alright, so the deck has been shuffled, everything pretty much reset. Let's go ahead and draw into our next test hand here. Double Dragoons and Launcher, not looking too good. There's a Moray of Greed, that's a nice sign, and a Deep Sea Aria to boot. So let's go ahead and start by slamming this Moray of Greed onto the table as hard as we possibly can. If you're following along at home, be careful on how hard you slam, depending on what surface you are putting this Moray of Greed down, and obviously just hope that we can sort of fix whatever hand we have here. So we draw into Infantry, we draw into Deep Sea Diva, and our third and final card, another Deep Sea Diva, both in different languages. So yeah, Moray of Greed coming in absolutely clutch there. Nothing else to say about it. We are going to heavy infantry. We are going to go for the Type Seat Oucher, and we're going to go ahead and go for Prince, of course, off of our Deep Sea Diva. We're going to send Dragoons, and we're going to add Dragoons, and you know what? I'm kind of debating on what we're going to add off this Dragoons here, because, you know, we have a lot of Sea Serpents in the deck that we could potentially add at this point, but I'm just kidding. I'm going to add a copy of Megalo, because, you know, I send Dragoons, add Dragoons, Megalo. That is the way. No, it is not. Sometimes it's not always the way. Sometimes you're actually, and I'm obviously joking, but sometimes, you know, obviously not adding Dragoons and Megalo is going to be the way to go, because sometimes you may have a Megalo in your hand already, and sometimes that's where it's better in most cases to actually like add a Prince to get the Graveyard Revival effect, or maybe add a Lappis Dragon, or prematurely add a Moulinglacia, whatever it may be. So as it stands here, we do have 2 monsters on our field with the same level, so that does open up the Bujinki play and setting up a rank 4 play like Bahamut Toad. But Nibiru, an ever-looming threat with this deck. We unfortunately have not seen Teus or Dragoons yet in this particular video, so we don't have a surefire way to play around the Nibiru, and as soon as they see that shark hit the board, they're probably going to panic slam Nibiru. But it's fine, because we still have a decent amount of cards in our hand, and we're going to lose one of the Dragoons, but we have Deep Sea Aria to sort of replace it with whatever we need it to be. So and again, the only other option here, the only other route I would see would be to link these two into, say, something like Needle Fiber, summon out a Fishborg Launcher, go for Megalo, maybe Moulinglacia, set up a cool synchro play with, like, you know, the Dragite here. But again, Bahamut Shark's a pretty good card, and it doesn't even have to be Bahamut Shark. You know, it could potentially be a copy of Abyss Dweller if you really want it to be. So we're going to go for Dragoons here, and the Dragoons here, and I'm going to overlay them in the same spot as last time so we can sort of free up as many zones as possible. We'll summon Bahamut Shark here. We'll go ahead and get Totally Awesome, and of course, which is Totally Awesome, and we're going to go ahead and search for Moulinglacia, because that's the card we still need at this current point in time. And we could go for Deep Sea Aria, and Deep Sea Aria will remove, say, something like Infantry. This might be an actual pretty similar board to the first one, but we do have the potential to maybe make it a little bit different. One thing I'm noticing right now is we could potentially link these two for Alacia, then go ahead and use Aria to get something like Prince, then put Moulinglacia on the board once we have 5 Waters Engraved. So I think I'm actually going to do that, because it's all about spacing, I find, with Mermail. Then a lot of other decks that I come across is figuring out spacing is always the hardest part. Alright, so I think I've pretty much figured it out. We're actually going to link for Anemone here, and I'm going to link for Anemone here for good reason. Since we have Diva engraved, we can set up a very, very easy Needle Fiber. So once we do that, we're obviously going to special summon the Moulinglacia once we have the 5 water engraved requirement here, after resolving, of course, Deep Sea Aria. And we're going to use Anemone to bring out Type Seat Oucher, or the Deep Sea Diva, and we're going to link these two right into, of course, Needle Fiber. A great use of that Anemone to help set up a pretty easy Halqifibrax. And then from here, we can go ahead and use Halqifibrax to summon out either another Deep Sea Diva, or again, we could go for Fishborg Launcher. Really doesn't make too big of a difference here. Now, we do need a little more room with this particular hand. We're a little short on space. but really only if we want to use the Neptabyss. We're kind of short on space, so we can sacrifice the Diva. It's really not too big of a deal because we can still go as it stands. Chainlink 1 Dragoons, Chainlink 2 Megalo, of course, to go ahead and add that Mizuchi. And if we were really worried about it, you know, we could add another Diva from our deck just to get it back immediately. But I'm going to add a copy of Infantry here if I can find one. Just so in case we have a potential setup for something like, you know, Alacia, we have a prime discard target. So what I'm going to do here is synchro these two into a copy of the Adamancipator Risen Raptite, or Dragite, not Raptite, this isn't Speedroids. So from here, things get a little bit crowded. We have a few options. Like, obviously, one of our prime goals would be to make our Abyssgale the Mizuchi live, and we could do that through a few ways. One would be to bring out Fishborg Launcher via its own effect and link off the Moulin and the Launcher. But then obviously there's a problem there because we don't have any linkers. So the only other play that I could see possibly to do would be to link the Halqifibrax and the Moulin for Mistar Boy, and then Launcher out to link the Mistar Boy and the Launcher for a copy of Alacia. Now, really, it depends. What do you value more at that point? Do you value the potential draw and double pop of the you know, formula play into Satellite Warrior? Do you want to keep the battle phase for next turn, etc.? Like, all of these things play into account here. So it just really depends on what you want to do. But you could do, again, like I said, summon out Fishborg Launcher, link these two off just like this, go for Mistar Boy, and then link the Mistar Boy and the Moulin off for a copy of Abyssalacia. Equip the Mizuchi to it, still have a live, you know, disrupt from the Alacia still, as opposed to the double pop. But this way, we're getting a pop and a search, and also, again, the ability to turn off Dark Lunar Remorse, Super Poly, etc., etc. So it's kind of a win-win here, if you ask me. Either way, I think either board is pretty good. Again, if you really wanted to, depending on what you're playing against, if it was a deck you knew that had a really good grind game, probably I would suggest keeping the Moulinglacia so you can keep the pressure on. And again, it really all depends on the scenario of what you're playing against. You know, how many cards you have to deal with in your hand. Like, we have a Prince follow-up for next turn, which is really good, and a way to get to Teus while still getting a disruption through the Alacia. So, yeah, pretty solid board there. So let's go ahead and jump into, I believe, our 4th test hand of the video here and see what we're capable of doing. Alright, deck has been shuffled. Let's go ahead and see what we can do here for our 4th test hand. Will we open Teus Dragoons? There's Teus Pike, Deep Sea Aria, and a copy of Prince. I mean, it's pretty close. I must say, it is pretty close. So one thing we can do here is start with Prince, obviously. Still going to send Dragoons at Dragoons Megalo because we can fuel our Teus with a nice little Dragoons play. We'll add that Megalo there and also find that copy of Dragoons. There it is. So let's go ahead and now Teus Dragoons. I don't know if we'll exactly be able to play around Nibiru with this one, just based around the summon lines of what we had to do. We didn't see Teus and Dragoons together. We had to get to Prince before we could make the Teus Dragoons play happen. So things might change up a little bit because of that, but we're going to go Dragoons 1, Teus 2. Teus is going to add Gund, or we could actually add Mander here, since we already have Pike in our hand, and then Dragoons can actually go ahead and add a copy of either Moulinglacia here or a copy of Prince. It really depends on what we need at this current situation. So off the Dragoons here, I'm actually going to add Moulinglacia. That way we can go ahead and Deep Sea Aria for a copy of Prince. Because obviously we can't do it the other way around because Moulin is not a level 4 lower Sea Serpent. Now, one thing I want to mention actually, because I haven't mentioned this entire video, I'm still not playing Deep Sea Minstrel. I still just really dislike that card, mainly for 3 core reasons. One, and I've said this in other videos as well, but for those that don't know, one, it's extremely lackluster without Dragoons. 2, it does nothing if you have to go second. And 3, what if they have more than one hand trap? That's mainly my biggest argument against it. Right now, I still have yet to like sit down and do a ton of testing and like on EDO Pro with this deck, but that's just still my current standpoint. It is yet to change, but it might very well change in the future. So don't try to, you know, convince me too much, because again, I may very well convince myself to play it again in the near future. So off that Deep Sea Aria, I'm actually just going to add another copy of Dragoons instead of going with Prince like I originally imagined. because I just don't think we need the Prince effect currently, since we're just trying to set up a standard VFD, or True King of All Calamities play. And so what we'll do now is summon the Megalo. We'll discard the Dragoons and the Mander here. We don't need to use the Megalo effect since we already have Mizuchi in hand, but now we'll go ahead and use Dragoons here. And Dragoons can add us Lappis Dragon. Lappis Dragon, of course, can summon itself to the field. We can go for sort of a needle fiber play here if we want. Although it's not like super needed, I suppose. What we actually could do is go for just a copy of Alacia, because Alacia may just be more beneficial here. And then we'll go ahead and summon the Moulin out of the zone that the Alacia points to, obviously for the extra attack boost. We'll banish the Mander to make these both level 9. And then we'll go ahead and overlay these two into a copy of the True King of All Calamities. And we can also equip the Mizuchi to our Alacia, of course, to give us that additional spell negate. Now, this board is super safe from Dark Lunar More and Super Poly. Because, I mean, Dark Lunar More, True King of All Calamities doesn't care about Dark Lunar More because we can activate it in the standby phase before they even have a chance to play their Dark Lunar More. And we have Pike as a potential follow-up. Not the greatest follow-up, I understand. But again, we can always change it out for a Teus if need be. And there's a couple different ways we probably could have played that out, I'm sure. Several different ways. That we could have played it out, but it's just unfortunate that we had to commit our normal to the Prince first, because otherwise we would just immediately start with the Teus and Dragoons and sort of pop off from there. I guess another play we could have done was maybe Teus start by discarding something like Prince, and then, you know, searching like Mander, and then Ariaing for Diva, and Diva going for Prince. That really doesn't change, I think, the overall play too much. I think still ending on True King of All Calamities with Moulinglacia is still a pretty solid board nonetheless. Alright, so as we enter our last test hand of the video, one thing I actually wanted to point out was possibly the addition of Marincess Great Bubble Reef into this extra deck. Mainly for the added resource gain it can offer during the standby phase, because it says once per turn during each standby phase you can banish a water monster from your graveyard or face-up field and draw a card, and each time a monster or monsters is banished, face up, this card gains 600 attack for each until the end of this turn. And then it also says you can send... And the other effect is mainly just strictly pertaining to Marincess, but this could be a pretty cool card to possibly include into the extra deck. But for right now, I haven't really tested it, but it's something I just wanted to bring up. So we'll cut the deck here. I don't know if I already did it or not, but we'll draw into our last hand. Can we open a Fabled Teus Dragoons once in this video? It looks like we can't, but that's fine because we still open a pretty solid hand. Otherwise, we're going to start with Prince. We're going to send Dragoons to add Dragoons Megalo, of course, as always. If I can find the Megalo here. And then we're going to drop, just go for Teus Dragoons immediately. And then we'll go ahead and search. We're going to go for Mander again, because if we have a Mander set up, there's literally zero reason to not go for it, because the VFD play is just absurd, and there's really no dodging around that. But I think actually what I'm at here is a copy of Prince, because what I think we can do now is with this particular hand. So I actually think from here we have the opportunity to pull off a pretty nice board, and what that's going to entail is doing, obviously starting by summoning Megalo by discarding the Gund, the Mander, and the Prince, and we'll use our chain links as follows. Chain link 1, chain link 2. We're going to go ahead and resolve those backwards. Of course, we'll add a copy of Mizuchi as sort of a consolation prize, and then we're going to go ahead and bring out Dragoons. Now, from here, the next thing to do would be to link off these two into a copy of Coral Anemone. And we're going to use Coral Anemone to revive Mermail Abyssmander from the graveyard, since it does have 1500 lower attack. And then we're going to go ahead and overlay into Bahamut Shark, but we're going to detach Dragoons here, because we can get the Mander into the grave sort of by other means. But we'll summon our Totally Awesome, and we'll get the effect of our Dragoons here, which we're going to have to add a copy of Megalo, so we can use this gun to help complete our rank 9 play that we're trying to make. So what we're gonna have to do is link these two into Mistar Boy, since we don't have any other way to get into Alacia just yet. Granted, we could link these into Alacia if we'd like, but we'll go ahead and special summon the second copy of Megalo, and we'll go ahead and use Marksman Chainlink 1, Gun Chainlink 2, and the Marksman or the Gun will revive this copy of Megalo. And then from here, we don't have any other options other than to banish this, make these both level 9. we can just summon this over here. Make sure it's not in the center, you know, same zone as the extra monster zone is, so we can avoid, if necessary, any possible relinquished animal plays. And then we can link these two off into a copy of that, where is it, Mermail Abyssalacia. We can put it here if we want to get the 500 attack boost on this, or we put it here on the 500 attack boost on the toe, which I think is probably a little more beneficial. And we can also equip the Mizuchi and set our Call by the Grave if we want to, or we could just keep the Call by a Grave in hand since we have pretty much everything locked down, and use this to go ahead and discard the Call by the Grave to search Atlanteus for next turn if we want to. So yeah, I think that's a pretty solid field. True King of all Calamities was totally awesome. I couldn't really set up a Moulin there without, you know, having to get rid of and, like, you know, replace the toe with something else. Again, there's probably tons of ways that board could have been played out. That was just the way that sort of came to my mind there. And yeah, no Atlantean Dragoons in this entire video. We were able to pull off, I mean, no Atlantean Dragoons directly, no Atlantean Dragoons like opening. We were able to start, it's mainly just Prince Dragoons, which is a little weirder, I guess is like the best way I can put it, is like a bit more of a awkward type of opening. But yeah, that's pretty much going to do it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Mermails for me right now really pretty much staying the same. I do like the extra deck changes that I made with the addition of like Formula, Satellite Warrior, and all that stuff. You know, playing Needle Fiber in here, really am enjoying it. But the only other thing really that I would want to experiment with going forward is probably adding of like the Marincess Great Bubble Reef. See how that goes. Maybe I like it, maybe I don't. You know. And possibly the adding of Deep Sea Minstrel, because I still don't know if I like that card or not. You know, the super ultra omega competitive side of me says you probably should play it. The other side of me that just says, like, it's just so, like, the past experience I've had with it just says keep it out of your deck forever. But again, I'll be testing it out. It's probably on my stream sometime in the near future. So if you want to check out one of my streams where I'd possibly test it, link to my Twitch down below. And also consider following me on Facebook, Twitter, and joining the Discord also. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, share it with a friend, all that good stuff. And yeah, as always, WinnerKills signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And of course, a special thanks to my Divine Level channel members here on YouTube, Academic Nick, Travis Harris, and Zors. Thank you guys so much for your generous support.